Good evening. Welcome to Experience the People's Podcast. I'm your host, JL, the Anti-Guru. And tonight I have a special guest, Edna Howard. And she is a remarkable woman. I'm going to give you a short bio, but let's cut this music right quick. And we're going to jump right into it. So Edna is a multifaceted professional. She's got a rich background in strategic information management, data analytics, and entrepreneurship. She's got over 30 years of business experience. She's navigated various IT roles. Her entrepreneurial drive has led her to manage her own businesses in the health and beauty industry, wearing multiple hats such as senior sales director, coach, mentor, motivational speaker, and trainer. Edna is also the visionary behind Voices of Encouragement and ICE Coaching and Consulting, both organizations dedicated to empowering women. And guys, she is also an inspirational author with 3 published books, including Running Your Race, Faith at Work, and Mindset Reset. I like that one. So Edna, I appreciate you coming on with us. I know you're a busy woman. You're doing something all the time, but I surely appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us today.
Well, I appreciate you asking me to come on. I'm honored. Thank you so much. And you're doing a lot too,
Well,
impacting the world. I love it.
well, I think you got me beat quite a bit. But let's jump right into it. I want to talk a little bit about your background and your journey. Can you share your journey and what led you to become a mindset coach and advocate for women of color?
Sure. Well, I guess first off, I have to say that it's kind of looking at my own challenges in life and being a young mom, getting out of a domestic violence situation, divorcee, being a single mom, and navigating the workforce as a woman of color, So I think for me, it was laying the foundation of understanding what actually made me tick. And I think because I know that coming out of hard times and resilient made me more resilient and also stronger in a sense that I'd say mental toughness. I started to look at almost like and understand that every challenge made me stronger and wiser. And I really began to think, how have I overcome so many life challenges? It was like just really sitting down and thinking about it because I was still very happy. I was still very joyful. And I still was like, wow, I navigated all that craziness, but I'm still here. And I think one of the things when I started to think about it, I was like, well, what made me have this bounce back ability?
Right.
And so I realized there were like 3 principles, JL, that I looked at: shifting perspective, developing the right attitude, and making the right choices. And that's kind of where the book came from, because Mindset Reset talks about those 3 powerful principles. And it bubbled up out of how can I take what I know about myself and how to apply those principles and share it with the world, right? And so part of it was looking at it from a perspective in kind of the introspective of self-awareness, and then be able to share that with other people. And to do that, it was like, well, how do I get skilled up? And that was basically master mindset coaching. Okay. And that makes sense to me because everything we do from the perspective of how we think, what we do, how we move in the world, all comes from thought management. Like, what are we thinking about? How do you think about it? Is your perspective correct? All of that. So I think what attracted me was really, going from point A to point B and understanding that shifting in the thinking. And there's a quote by Earl Nightingale: "We become what we think about all day long."
Right.
And I believe that to be true. So I went, that deep introspective and started into the mindset side of things, because now it was looking at it from the perspective of growth mindset versus fixed mindset, because those are real mindsets. And some people really get stuck in the fixed mindset. And I really think that was the launching pad for me to start to get certified and become a master mindset coach and really apply all of the principles to helping other people grow. And that's really where it comes from. So just changing, making sure that I'm able to give of self and use my own personal experiences to be able to draw from that. So
Well,
that's where it came from.
well, Edna, I got another question. You know, this is kind of it's on the topic, but I heard somebody say this. Another video I was watching, influencer, and he made the statement that influence affects thinking, which affects your action. Would you agree or disagree with that?
No, that's true. Depends on how you grow up too. Your influence in your life. It affects your belief system. It affects how you think, all of that. So depending on what the influences are, if they're good influences, they could be good. But if they're bad influences, and now you've interpreted all of that, that's the way your world was when you were younger, and now you brought it into your adulthood, and you can't shift your thinking. And sometimes you just need some help.
Yeah,
So I would agree
I
with that.
advocate therapy. A lot of our people of color,
Yeah.
almost all of us have had some type of trauma in our
Yes.
lives, and that
Agreed.
definitely affects our relationships and how we move and navigate through the world. But what are some of the common mindset shifts that you encourage your clients to make?
Well, in terms of mindset shift and what that could look like, well, let me explain to you what mindset is first. I think that's
Okay.
important because let's give some context so we can get there.
Right.
Helping what I do is I want to make sure the audience understands what a master mindset coach is. And so the best way to describe that is I'm a mental wellness professional who helps people make progress in their lives in order to attain greater fulfillment,
Okay.
right? And I'm dedicated to rewiring individuals' mindsets, allowing them to be the very best versions of themselves and to unlock their full potential. Because so many people, they have potential, but they don't know how to unlock it, or they're scared to. The biggest
Mm,
thing is fear. They have a fear. So I can give you some basic information around like the 5 top common mindset shifts I encourage my clients to make. And I want them to write this down because it's important. So I'll give you, there's 10, but I'm gonna give the top 5. The
okay.
first one is stop seeking perfection. Women do that. They seek perfection. So we often feel the pressure to be perfect, right? In all aspects of life, doesn't matter what it is. And so it's really important to realize that there's no perfection. There's only continuous improvement. I think that's important. The next one is you want to value self-care. Women often prioritize taking care of them other people, and
Right.
it's important to prioritize taking care of ourselves. You got to actively recharge and rejuvenate yourself. And I always say there's like the 6 cues to checking in with ourselves. How are you feeling? What's not working? What's working? What do I need? Because a lot of times we might need help and we need to ask for it.
Mm,
What am I proud of? And what can I let go of?
mm,
What can I let go of? And number 3 is embrace your uniqueness. Women are often really pressured to conform to societal standards and the beauty success standards.
mm,
And I think it's important that we embrace our uniqueness and celebrate our individuality,
right.
quirks, quirks and all. And I think the kind of the older that I get, the wiser that I get, I take that to heart because you can't stop being who you are.
Right.
Unless you putting a mask on every day and walking out there being someone else. It's almost like code switching in corporate America. Women of color do it all the time, right? I don't want to do that. I want to be who I am and bring it authentically from the time that I get up in the morning. I'm just the same person. I'm not going to code switch when I go into an environment because that's bringing my uniqueness. So I'm going to do that. And number 4 is challenge limiting self-beliefs. So many women hold themselves back with limiting self-beliefs. And again, you mentioned it earlier, JL, that there are some people that have had trauma. Everyone hasn't had a traumatic event, but a lot of people have. They bring it into their adulthood and it holds them back. And they
Right.
don't even know why it's holding them back. But you got to do the work. So I think for that, you have the capability, you have everything you need to do the thing you need to do or to get where you need to go. So you got to shift your thinking. And that's where we get into the mindset piece because again, there's the mindset and there's also cognitive behavior therapy, which is CBT. It's talk therapy. And I've been certified in that as well. So I work with women to kind of talk it out, walk it out. What does that look like? And a lot of times too, JL, there's some therapists involved, and I am the coach. So there's therapists, they have a therapist, and then I'm the coach on the other side, because therapists help us deal with our past, and a
Mm-hmm.
coach helps us focus on our present and the future. So
Right.
it bridges the gap. Get the
Right.
bridge. And I also say too, developing a list of affirmations is important. I'm just going to throw that in there. And the last one is number 5, and that is surrounding yourself with supportive people. There are 3 types of people. There's the inspired, there's the empowered, and there's the grateful. And you have to have those people in your life, right? If you don't, I encourage you to find out which category you have friends in that can do that for you, because they will help. They'll be supportive, and they help you with your dreams, and they'll blow belief into you, and
Mm.
they will be the wind beneath your wings.
Yeah. Now Now you say 3 people, and my daughter was coming up, and this is something that I can't remember where I got it from, but I told her there are 4 kinds of people. There are
Okay.
people that add to your life, people
Mm-hmm.
that subtract, people that divide, and people that multiply. And I told her, I
Mm-hmm.
said, you keep the adders and the multipliers, and you get rid of the subtractors and the dividers. And it's easy to
Right.
identify those people, but I think you covered it with 3. I used 4, but
It's bucket. Yeah, it's but you get sub buckets. You can also have those subcategories underneath of that, because what you just said is real. And I think it's when you think about it from a hierarchy perspective, it's like, okay, you got these buckets, now you got some sub buckets. Now you can even break it down even further.
right,
And you know which people to hang out with, right? The ones that are gonna kind of trigger you, you know that. So don't spend a lot of time in their environment. If
right.
you're in a toxic environment and you know that there's certain people are going to trigger you, only spend a couple of minutes there. Don't spend several hours, because it'll soak into your spirit.
Hmm. Yeah, I call them energy vampires. They just suck the
Yeah,
life out of you, you know.
exactly. Exactly.
So, could you share a success story with your coaching that stands out particularly to you? You don't have to mention any names. Just you know.
Yeah. Well, there's so many great testimonials, and you can go out on the website and see all of those. But I think the one that stands out for me the most was, I was actually coaching a client, and she was finishing up, and she said, this has been so great. And she was just saying all this wonderful stuff about it. I said, let's do a testimonial real quick, right on the spot. And
Right.
she shared from her heart, like I didn't prep her or anything. She shared from her heart how the coaching that I was giving her and she was receiving it had helped her shift her mindset. It helped her get her mind organized so she could start to work on the goals and dreams that she had laid out, but they were like all over the place. So helping her get her mind focused on the things that meant something to her and continue. It was sustainable. It wasn't just, oh, this is a one and done. It's a sustainable thing. So
Right.
using those techniques that I use with affirmations, bridging the gap, developing the confidence blueprint, all of those tools helping her understand what that could look like and what the future could look like. So she shared with, and I just thought, wow, that was so amazing. It's out on the website, so I have all the testimonials out there. But I think that's the one that really stuck home with me, and it made me realize that there is a need, and there is a need to be filled. And women do have some struggles in that area, and I'm able to do that because I'm skilled up, I'm trained up, and I have life experience.
Right. Right. So let's talk about your advocacy for women of color. Since we've, um, what are the systemic challenges? We hear about systemic racism, but what are the systemic challenges that women of color have to face today, and how can these be addressed?
Well, in terms of navigating the landscape and what that could look like, it's many cases where women of color face discrimination and systemic barriers, and that can really limit them to opportunities and resources, or make them feel like they're not enough,
Hmm.
right? And so this can really manifest in various ways, JL, including limited access to education, right? Employment, healthcare, workforce development, all of that. And so I think that part of kind of getting past it and helping women we want to make sure that they have representation. And what that looks like is fighting for that. So
Mm-hmm.
I work with women in the workforce and coach them and help them, especially women in tech, because I'm a woman in tech.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of challenges with women in tech because it's a male dominated industry and it's a white male dominated industry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so those are the things that we have to navigate, and being able to help with that, shift perspective to have belief in self and confidence and building them up, because there's so many things that impact us. A mindset of a woman of color, it could be difficult to pursue their goals because they have these limited self beliefs and societal barriers. They don't help.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
thing.
These
Yeah,
stereotypes that they try to put black
yeah,
women, like the angry black women and all this.
yeah,
That well, everybody can have a bad day,
right.
you know,
Right.
but
Well, I
that
think part of that angry black women syndrome is, and that's why I think we code switch so much, right? We go into corporate America because we are, first of all, we're just who we are, right?
mhm,
And we're not aggressive, we're assertive. But
right,
assertive to our white counterparts might look aggressive because that's what they see in media or whatever, and they just assume
mhm,
that. And it's a bias. It's a bias. Without even thinking about it. And it could be an unconscious bias.
mhm,
And that is where I think we struggle the most, where, you're trying to, you have this softness, but then you're also very assertive because we're strong by nature. We just are. We're people of strength,
no
right?
doubt,
And so we go into corporate America and we want to, we want to hit the ground running. We want to navigate the landscape too. But there's so many different unconscious biases. There's barriers that are put up in place, and there's a lot of political stuff happening behind the scenes that if you don't know how to navigate that or be able to advocate for yourself,
right,
I think that's the main thing, advocating for self, and finding out how to do that, and that is a skill. And I think that once you figure that out, you can jump in and start to navigate it the way you need to, because you start small, but then you work your way up.
right, right. And you talk about being assertive. I
Mhm.
know in my own experience, in the workforce, people would say, "Well, you're just arrogant or you're conceited." I say, "Well, I'm not conceited. I'm just convinced of who I am, and you can't tell me anything different."
Right, right, right.
Um, and as I've gotten older, you put up with less mess, because
I think that's what it is as you get, I think it's older and wiser.
yeah,
And I think there's a way to navigate the landscape. I always say that because it is, you really literally have to navigate the landscape depending on what environment you're in, and understanding who you are and what you bring and who you're dealing with,
hmm
right? And I tell more people now, not just women, but educate yourself,
exactly,
because don't just take things at face value. Do your own research.
yeah, definitely,
You got to do your own research, because people can tell you anything, and they can control the narrative depending on how much information they want to share.
yeah, exactly. And that's I think that definitely, not definitely with women of color, but people of color, the dominant society, they control a
Right.
lot of the media outlets, and they put out this what's the term, ethnic image, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily represent who we are. Because I remember this was years ago. I was working in the mortgage business, and I was the only black guy, only black person in the office. And one day after work, I was talking with one of my coworkers, and he
Mm-hmm.
said, I've never met a black person like you. You're so articulate, and you speak so well. And I laughed. I didn't get offended because you could have got
Yeah.
offended. But I
Right. Right.
said, I think his name was Mark. I said, black people were not all the same. Just like any other race of people, we all are different. I said I grew up in a household. My parents were college educated. They believed
Right.
in
Right.
education. We read books, and
Right.
that's because my mother was a teacher, so I didn't have any choice. you know,
Right. You're gonna make sure you got what you needed.
Exactly, and it's just the benefits of a classical education, But
Yeah.
I had to laugh because what he said was true for him. He'd never met anybody like me. I can't remember
Yeah.
where he was from, but obviously the people of color that he came across weren't like me, or
Right.
maybe he never had come across anybody and only formed an opinion on what he saw on television or whatever, you know.
That could have been it. That could, so it gave him a limited view of what a all black people are, because like you
Right,
said, you can't generalize. Like we can't generalize about our white counterparts.
right, right.
Good. And I said that I was just talking with my sister-in-law a couple of weekends ago, and I said I can never say that my white counterpart has not helped me, because my whole career I've had help.
Hmm.
Always. It was always someone that didn't look like me. Not always, but enough people that didn't look like me that I could say it was half and half. It wasn't everyone that looked like me to help me
Right.
uh,
Well,
make
yeah,
it up into
because
man.
there are decent people everywhere, and there's not all bad, and there's not all good. And that's what you come across. And there are people who see your potential, or they see something in you, and they want to invest in that. You know, I've had the
Yeah.
same experience. You know, but so my next question is: how important is it to build and maintain support networks for women of color, and what advice do you have for doing so?
Oh, wow. Well, it's for me, because I start from where I am. But that piece right there, JL, that question is profound. Like giving the advice, it is. I mean, that what does that look like, and how can you do it? Having a network of women, and I think that's what I built with Voices of Encouragement. I'm gonna go back to the foundation. I started Voices of Encouragement in my home
Hmm.
because I knew that there were women out there that needed to connect, right? And we needed to build each other up and encourage one another and mentor one another, right? And so that began in my home. And I laugh about it because it evolved into all of these other capabilities. And that's
Right.
God. That was God. He just grew it. But the heart was there. The heart was, I need to make sure that I not only have something for myself where I have women that have a support system, but now I want to grow it and have other women connect so that they have a support system and help one another.
Okay.
And so doing that, it lays the foundation for allowing women to have a safe space to connect. And that's what I developed, a safe space for women to connect. And we were doing it in my home, and then we launched it into workshops on a quarterly basis outside of the home. So we were meeting at a meeting facility, and I would say 4 times a year, we
Okay.
had those wonderful workshops, and it was growing. It was manifesting into something else, where
Mm.
women were actually doing business together. They were actually mentoring one another. They were in like text chains, stuff I didn't even know what was happening. I was like,
Right.
this is grown bigger than what I even consider. I just wanted to have a place for them to have a safe space to have thought-provoking questions at the table, and be able to have speakers come in and coaches. But that turned into something else. And
Hmm.
then when COVID hit, we could no longer meet face to face. So I pivoted and created something called the Encouragement Cafe, and we went online.
Oh wow.
And so Encouragement Cafe allows coaches and facilitators to come and still speak to the women and create a safe space online for us to connect.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so that's growth. I mean, for me, that was the growth piece. And then out of that, JL, what I realized again, finding that women needed some additional help was when I started to say, I open up ICE coaching and consulting services.
Hmm. Hmm.
Women need one-on-one coaching. They needed more than just the group, setting, and we have a safe
Right.
space, yes, but they were struggling with other issues because we had people that were losing family members, losing friends. It was
Hmm.
no one knew what was happening. Everybody was in fear, right? So they needed a place to kind of share their trepidation, all of their struggles, and then find a way to continue to walk it out while
Right.
we were in the middle of COVID. So I was able to do that. I was able to help women while I was in the middle of COVID. The actual ICE coaching and consulting services were birthed. So I look at it from, it started with wanting to help, the connections, then the networking, and then the business growth, and all of that kind of came together. It evolved, and it's still evolving.
That's an awesome story. And so let's get into your writing and your speaking. What is the process like, and where do you draw your inspiration from for your books? Because I love these titles. I mean, um,
Right.
running your race, faith at work, But
Hmm.
really, mindset reset. I like that one the best.
Yeah.
I'm
Because
have
that's what we need sometimes. We need to reset our mind.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I would say the process for my writing really is it requires discipline to write. A lot of people say, "Oh, I'm just gonna write." Like that is so great for you. I had to discipline myself, which meant I had to schedule it in my calendar how I was going to actually lay this out. The first book was really a book from the heart, which was something I decided I was going to write for my youngest daughter going off to college because I felt like I didn't tell her everything. I was like, I
right,
still have stuff I want to share with her, Lord. Oh, and the book idea came up. I was going to write it just for her. I was going to
right.
give it a manuscript. And I was at lunch with one of my girlfriends many years ago, and she said to me, you need to write this for more than just Jade. There's a lot of college students, first year college students, they're going to need what you have.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
that's where I got the idea. And I say it was a divine idea from someone who just shared it with me, and it created that light bulb moment of saying, well, yeah, I should self-publish. So I did. So I
Wow.
self-published there. But part of it was I had all my journals that I'm a writer. So I write in journals every day. I've been journaling since I was in my early 20s. So I got all of these journals. So I pulled a lot of the content from my journals,
Mm-hmm,
a
mm-hmm.
lot of the contents, and I would look at it from the perspective of I was always preparing myself for this. I didn't even know it, right? So being able to share with her um, my heart, a mother's heart, from
Right.
my journaling and from my own aspects of what I had to go through and how I believe what I could tell her to help her navigate the landscape at school her
Awesome.
first year. So that's where that came from. And then faith at work.
Mm,
That was another divine moment where I just was kind of sitting by myself, thinking what could be next. And that particular title came up. And again, I drew from my journals. I was like, well, what did I do at work to help me strengthen my faith?
right.
And it's not the work, but the work. So
Mm,
faith at work has a dual title. You can see it's faith at work and faith at work.
gotcha. Gotcha.
So I looked at it from the perspective, you know what? I'm going to use everything I got and pour into this book. And where that idea came from was initially it came from a friend I talked with when I was working at ExxonMobil. And both of us, I was in the lunchroom and I saw her. She just looked so distraught and so sad. And I went over and talked to her, and she was struggling with the supervisor.
Mm,
She was struggling with the supervisor, and I had struggled with supervisors in the past, and I understood what she was going through. And so you got to get the book though, because it tells the story why I wrote the book in there. But I'm not going to give it all away. But
right.
she shared with me what was going on, and at that moment in time, when I went back up to my office, I wrote her an email, and I sent it to her email, and it's again that email's in the book. But I knew then when I was sitting at my desk that at some level, I was going to be able to share with women how to strengthen their faith at work.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't write the book then, but it was maybe 10 years later.
Wow.
10 years later. But I still had the email. I still had the journaling. I still had all of that stuff that I kept because when I went to go write it, it fell into place. And so that, again, that was God speaking to my heart and then having me develop the muscle and the skill set to do that. So it took discipline. And the last book was really, again, from perspective, attitude, and choice, those three key things that kept me going and helped me with my bounce back ability my whole life. And I just felt like there is another way to package it up and be able to share it with the world. And I was already teaching a webinar on it. So I was like, oh, you pretty much got everything you need. So now what is the process? Discipline.
Mm-hmm.
It's the sitting down and it's the doing it because every time a writer sits down, they don't necessarily want to, but they got to discipline themselves too. So once you get into it, you'll do it, but you'll say, oh, I'll do that tomorrow. Oh, I'll take 10 minutes here. You really have to put it on your calendar,
Mm-hmm.
discipline yourself to sit down and write. That's
Yeah.
what for me, that's what for me.
Well, it sounds like you got plenty of books left inside that journaling. If you got 20, 30 years worth of journaling
I
under
do.
your belt. So,
Yeah, I was just sharing with my Bible study group that I lead. I said, well, I'm thinking about writing a book of God's 8,000 promises. They were like, "Oh, what did you get?" I said, "I am thinking about it." But I'm going to, I know I want to do it because I already planned it in my spirit. I'm like, okay, you're going to, so that's going to be one. And then there's 365 fear nots in the Bible, right? That's
Okay.
another way to be able to draw from scripture and, kind of write stories around that.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. Oh, that's awesome. So let's switch to the speaking engagements. So how do you prepare for those? And what messages do you often aim to convey?
I think for me, it's the messages how I prepare. Let's go there. How I prepare is first I pray, because even with you going into a new environment, everyone is not the same. Like you can go into a environment where you have church members, which is a lot of what we did with Voices of Encouragement. It was very faith based. I'm a faith based coach, so I do a lot of that. I bring in the scripture, and spirit. The spirit is there. Now you're going into a corporate environment that's a little different, right?
Right.
You can shift a little bit. So I've learned to first of all, I pray on it. Is it the right opportunity for me to go in and share what I have?
Hmm.
Understanding who the audience is, that's the other thing. Who am I speaking to? And I can give you an example. Just last year, as a matter of fact, one of my larger clients, MC Dean, the point of contact reached out to me through LinkedIn. So I tell people, keep your LinkedIn profile updated, because she found me through LinkedIn. She was
Okay.
looking for someone that could come in and help her develop her ideas for a women's conference, empowerment conference, their very first one. And so we talked, and I basically took her ideas and created a presentation to help her talk about leadership, to talk about self-care. So it was three different subjects that I came up with from all of the intel I gathered from her. And I was able to deliver that. She also wanted the journaling. She wanted to deliver to the women how to do vision boards. And
Mm.
I teach that. So I teach vision boarding. So that was another one. She had all of these wonderful ideas, and we had to package it so that
Mhm.
we could lay it out and succinct. And then she said, "And I'm gonna need you to be a speaker." So all of that from me working with her, she's like, "And now would you do it?" I was like, "Sure," but still building on all of the information, all the intel I gathered from her, and understanding who my audience was. I think that's when I talk about speaking, it's more about, is it the right opportunity? Because you can't go speak to everybody, and everybody's not going to get the message. That's the thing. You have to understand who your audience is, and you have to understand the venue.
Mhm. So, what advice would you give for aspiring advocates? Someone who wants to become an advocate like you, or a mindset coach.
I say you want to look at the 6 areas that you could really focus on. I'll give you 6 because I gave you 5 earlier. So you want to educate yourself. You want to
Okay.
educate yourself. That's the first thing. You want to take time to learn about the unique challenges and experiences faced with women of color, right? Understand the statistics, understand their perspective, the histories, and that's going to enable any advocate to be effective on their behalf.
Mm.
You want to seek mentorship and connect with other advocates or coaches who specialize in working with women of color, right? Learn from their experiences and let them get into the guidance and seek more, kind of wisdom from them as well, so you can navigate it. I would say number 3 is amplify marginalized voices. Use your platform if you have one,
Mm.
right, to lift up the voices of women of color and share their stories and perspectives and achievements, so they can get the awareness and the representation. I think that's important. And also be an active listener. So many people talk a good game, and they say they want to do all these things, and they're not really listening to what the need is, right? They're just talking.
Yeah, they just want to be heard.
They want to be heard, and that's great, but you need to listen, listen to what's going on, and allow women of color to express themselves fully, not just halfway listen, but let them speak, let them tell their story. And they don't always have to be angry Black women. They're not. They just have some things that happen to them. So as they're speaking about it, it could be emotional.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
So learning to listen, and I say cultivate empathy and understanding. That's important. Approach it with your advocacy mindset, right? What can I do? Show some empathy and some understanding. And then
Right.
the last one is really take care of yourself as an advocate.
Right.
Advocate work is a lot. You start coaching, you have to take care of yourself. But I would say start with education, and then all those other things kind of start to fold in. I hope
Cool.
that answered your question.
Yes, ma'am. You have been doing wonderful. So, what are your future goals for your career and your advocacy work? What
Well,
do you
thank
see
you for
yourself
that.
in the next 10
Sure. In the next 10 years, that was but the next few years,
years? Okay. We'll
I
go with
do
the
3 to 5
next
out. Yeah, I do 3 to 5 out. That's more reasonable for me because I can chunk it down.
few.
So,
Okay.
well, my future plan in coaching in the coaching space is to continue to work with women, right? Continue to grow that space and create a safe space and support system for women of color so they can thrive and connect and continue to connect through voices of encouragement in my coaching business. Um, Beyond that, I want to say that I look at my technical world because I got two hats, the technical side of things, continue to grow and get certified in that area so that I can leverage those skill sets and stay in the game because everything is changing with AI. So all of that's changing. And then there are a couple of things that I've been doing beyond that. And I would say that, the future of the business itself. This month we have several coaching programs that I have coming out, JL, and I'm excited about them. The first one is the group coaching. It's Empower Her signature group coaching series, and it's a monthly group coaching that offers personalized guidance, ongoing support, goal setting, positive mindset tools, and it's faith-based approach. And then
Okay.
the other one is online, on-demand, self-paced course mindset reset courses that I'm developing and will be launching early July. And that's going to be exciting because we have 4 modules, right? With
Okay.
the quizzes and all of that. And at the end, you can get mindset certified,
Oh, wow.
mindset reset certified. Let me clarify that mindset reset
Right.
certified.
Right. Right.
Um, and then the last thing that I have been working on, I have a partner that I've onboarded onto Voices of Encouragement, and we opened up a capability for a digital marketing. So we offer digital marketing, and I think I mentioned this to you before, but it's for
Right.
small business owners, and they get who operate a side hustle or they're looking for affordable results to grow the business through YouTube, or they need some social media management. So we're doing that as well.
All right. Cool. Cool. So,
Mm.
Edna, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, um, you know, I'm sure they can go to the website, give out your website, your contact information, all that good stuff. You've been
Sure.
a wealth of knowledge tonight, and we really appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. My email, I'll start with my email, voemetoday@gmail.com. Very straightforward. You want to get in touch with me through Instagram, it's voemetoday, and my website is voicesoфencouragement.com.
All right, cool, cool. So, one more question before we go. Um, what legacy do you hope to leave through your work and your advocacy?
I want to impact the world, right? And I hope the work that I'm doing is impacting the world in such a way that leaves a lasting legacy for women, more specifically women of color, so they know they're valued, seen, and heard. Because I think that's really what it boils down to, being valued, seen, and heard. And I want my legacy to also live on through women being vigilant, no matter what goes on, what happens, be vigilant because your voice matters. It really, truly does matter. And I want them to know that we're more than enough. We've always been more than
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt.
enough.
Well, we're gonna.
Priority message from Security Officer Klingon Vessel Borges.
Well, I have got a security one message from the Klingon vessel Bortus. That's Gowron ship. That's going to end our podcast tonight. Edna, I appreciate you so much for coming on with me. You, like I said, you've been a wealth of knowledge, guys. If you are interested in connecting with her, she has given out her contact information. She's got a lot of things going on. If you want to be a mindset coach, she's got some programs. Check her out. And
Thank you.
so we're going to close out Remember my 3 R's: respect yourself, respect others, and always, always take full responsibility for your actions. Remember, we're on every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.
Awesome.